Now we're going to look a bit into Android programming. I'll be making a quick application here over the next few minutes that downloads an image from the internet and displays it on the phone. And in looking at this, we'll touch on several aspects of Android programming. We'll look at permissions, we'll look at the UI layout, we'll look at a basic activity and how it works, as well as some bits on threading and making sure that you're not doing certain activities in the main UI thread. So we're going to start. We've got the Android Development Toolkit here, and I'll start by just opening up a new Android project here, and we'll just call it edX Demo. And we can just take the default package here. That's totally fine. And we'll just make a new project. Just take all the defaults. And you can now see up here in the navigator, here's the new project. And here is the main activity. And in Android, an activity is basically a screen. It's something that the user will be interacting with. And you can see here in the class, this is what's going to happen when the activity is created. So whenever that activity is created for the first time, this gets called. All of your initialization would take place in this part of the code. Looking at the rest of the folders that are automatically created here, we can look in the resource directory here. This is where all of your images will be, and these are images for different screen resolution sizes. So if you want a really high resolution image for a tablet, for example, you could put it in the extra high density folder down here. But for right now, we're going to look in the layout folder. And this XML file describes the screen, the main activity that will be shown. And you can view it graphically here. Or you can view it as the XML file itself. So let's take this graphical layout, and now let's add an image to this. So we're going to take an image view, we're going to drag it out right here, stick it on the main screen, and there it is right there. You can see it right here. We can move it around wherever we want to put it. And if you look in the XML, you can now see that it's added an image view here, and it's called image view 1. We can rename this anything we want. We can call it downloaded image. And now this resource is known as downloaded image when we're going to call it in our code. And so we'll just save that XML file. We'll save the layout. And then we'll back out of here. And we'll go back into the main activity. And now we're going to put in the code here in the onCreate. So when it starts, it will initialize and download this particular image. We're going to create a new URL pointing to a resource that's on the edX server. This is just kind of the default edX image here. We'll open the connection on that. We'll get the input stream, and we'll create a bitmap out of that. We need to put all this in a try block, just in case something fails along the way. And then once we get that image, we'll want to set the image view. So we can say image view, and we'll find the view by an ID. And we can see that downloaded image right here. This is what we created in the XML file just a minute ago. And now we'll want to set the bitmap. Set the image bitmap to be that bitmap that we just downloaded. And so now that's the basic code, right? This is downloading this particular URL, it's getting the image, and it's setting the image view. However, this is not how we would want to run it in the real project, because this would be running in the main UI thread. And running in the main UI thread means that it's going to block anything the user tries to do. If they try to hit back, if they try to interact with anything in the application, it would block them. So we want to do this in a new thread. So we'll just make a new thread here. And then we'll paste all this code into that new thread. But now that brings up another issue, and we'll just close the thread down here. Now, if we're running this code in this new thread, it's going to try to set the image view and try to set one of these resources. But it's not running in the user interface thread. It's running in a different thread. So we'll need to create a new runnable here and run this on the main UI thread. Great. And then we will do run on UI thread R. And so now it will run that runnable on the UI thread. So when you start the new activity, it will create this new thread, and it will start it. It'll download the image, and then it'll create a runnable that it runs on the UI thread to set that image resource. So that's the basic code. It was pretty easy, but there's one more thing that we need to look at. We need to look in the manifest file. And you can think of the manifest file as something that tells the Android system what your application is going to do. What are the activities? What are the main screens? And then what APIs are you going to need to interact with? If you look in the Android market, and when you download an app, it says, this app is going to use the internet and send text messages and do all of these other things. All of that is set in the manifest. So we can go over to permissions here, and we can add a uses permission. And we'll say that we need to use the Android permission internet. And we'll pick that right there, and then save the manifest. And if you look, you can look at the actual XML of the manifest, and you can see it's added uses permission, Android permission internet. So now this application is allowed to use the internet, and when the user installs it, it will prompt them and say, by the way, this app is going to use the internet. Great. So now we're ready to run the application on the phone. And I've got my phone here. I'll plug it into the laptop. And now all I need to do is hit this play button right here and say I want to run it as an Android application. And it will compile it, and it will send it to the phone. I pick my phone right here, say OK. And now you can see it's downloaded the application on the phone and run it. It's downloaded that edX image, and it's visible right there on the screen. And so now you've seen a variety of the different tools in the Android SDK. You've seen how to use permissions. You've seen how to implement threading. And you've seen how to modify the views on an Android application. And so now it's your turn to try to create a new Hello World application for this week's assignment. And you can find that online.